Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. With me in the studio as your regular, everyday, outstanding citizen, Mr. Eric J. Morin.
I get the outstanding citizen award this time.
You get the outstanding citizen. I was going to say adjective Eric J. Morin, but I felt like that came to me at the last second, and I just kind of rolled with it.
It's good to be in the studio. I think since the last time I saw you, I traveled all around the world. It feels like it. I've been on podcasts, speaking, going to conferences. It's been a crazy whirlwind of a week.
We were joking. You were you're on platinum status.
I think it's May, and I think I did hit platinum. Like, I actually think if I pull up my Delta account, I gotta check this right now. I really do think I hit platinum already. It's May. Like, I shouldn't hit platinum already.
Yeah. And you've took a couple private flights too. So even if those were considered into the commercial route, you'd be way past platinum.
That is true. I don't think they registered my last trip yet. I think once they register it, I'm almost to platinum.
That'll put you over the edge.
$1 spent, and I need 7,600 MQMs, which I think that they haven't put in my last flight. So anyhow, very quick.
Talk about a confusing program. We oftentimes say, have good systems, have good programs, and the Delta, all the airlines, I feel like it's the most convoluted rewards program in the world. And it's always like, I'm not quite sure how I get the status. But that kind of leads me into our next, like what we're going to talk about today. And I was trying to figure out, and I was trying to do some research for, we're always trying to bring relevance to this podcast. And when I was doing my brief search, all I saw in the marketplace was really doom and gloom. It was inflation's really high. We're putting money in the wrong assets. We're focusing on the wrong area. It was just a lot of negativity. And I can only imagine, from a business owner standpoint, just like looking at that stuff all day, what that can do to your mindset. So, my question for you, Eric, is, what are some of the tactics that you utilize to block out the noise and just really focusing on the mission ahead?
Well, that's loaded. No, I'm just kidding. Here's the thing about right now. I just had literally in the last week alone, 2 dental practices come to me and ask me if I could find a buyer because of the fact that they were tired of having a hard time finding team members. I thought that was pretty interesting because, so I pulled the financials of these businesses. And so I saw them, and I mean, these were not clients. These were people who came to me and know me, and they want to be clients. And so they said, hey, listen, I'd love to talk to you about my business. So I looked at it and I go, these are profitable businesses that are doing well. One of them, the doctor doesn't even work clinically. And yet they're going to sell it. And that's because of emotion, right? It's not a financial decision because whatever they would get after taxes and debt or whatever, it's just emotion. But before that, it was September 11th, right? September 11th. I was talking about that this morning. No, not September 11th. That was a long time ago. It felt like that in some ways. COVID happened, right? And so what ends up happening is we see this, I was just talking a few weeks ago. I said Vern Hardish says keep 6 to 8 times the industry's amount of capital. This is where we get into those situations where people start to panic and they started like, you can't look, it's always something. In 2011, the problem was, I was just saying this morning to our team, look, you could have a master's degree and you couldn't find a job. The stories of the day were, look, you have a master's degree, you were having to work at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? That means markets go up and markets go down. We have to fluctuate with markets as business owners. And what happens is like, if I go up the Fox News this morning or I go to CNN, it's scary and it's scary times. And the problem is that with that is that everyone's following the same strategy, but that's the same thing that happened in 2008 when the economy crashed. The people who did not follow the marketplace, who bought stocks because they were buying them at low or buying houses at low points were the ones who won, which is the means that you don't get emotional during this time. I think I can literally see people walking away from their business. Look, I mean, even at Tower, we'd love to have more people, right? I mean, I think we'd always love to have more people. I think we're always recruiting, but I think that sometimes that marketplace is more difficult and sometimes it's easy. And so it just depends on where you're at in the market, but you have to be able to push through all market conditions. You can't just jump out of the pool just because of the fact that you have a difficult market or market strain. Just last week, the stock market's crashing and then we see it go up by 600 points. It's like a huge rally. So it's like, okay, do you really want to follow this emotional roller coaster? I mean, look, the greatest stock investor I've ever met, it's so funny. He would just, he just was like, yeah, whatever. Like he never really cared if the stock
Yeah.
market crashed or if it went up. He never really got emotional about it all. He'd be like, yeah, I mean, just keep buying. And so, I think it's like the same thing what happens in a business. It's like, look, the whole marketplace is struggling with the same thing. Don't get over
Yeah.
emotional about it. Now, you asked me though a strategy. So there's a thought process. The strategy would be this: is go look at opportunities. The truth
Yeah.
is there's a lot of opportunities. I just told you two practices right now are like, hey, I want to dump the practice because I don't want to deal with having to find people. Look, there's opportunity in the marketplace. I would still argue that I was just at the Amplify conference and it's all DSOs and large organizations and it's about technology and how technology affects the dental market space because there's billions of dollars coming into this industry. The DSOs are struggling with the exact same thing. These guys have huge backings and they're struggling with the same things. Everyone's struggling with the same things. Like everyone's going through the same conversations and the same struggles. So you got to look at this and say, where are the opportunities in the marketplace that people are going to miss because they get emotional? Because people
Yeah.
are getting emotional right now. The people who don't get emotional and they look at the marketplace and say, how can I capture? Well, maybe I can buy a practice for discount because right now it's not that the practice is depreciated. It's just the fact that the person doesn't want to deal with this anymore. There'll be practices for sale. There's going to be practices for sale because there's a lot of DSOs who don't know what they're doing, and they got emotional and bought high, and the financials don't make sense. And so there's going to be opportunity. Someone asked me recently, is there a bubble? Yeah, there's a bubble. And so
Yeah.
there's going to be opportunity there. There's opportunity to ultimately solidify your culture, solidify your values, solidify what you do as an organization.
Yeah.
I think what you have to do is look at the opportunities in the marketplace because pain creates strength. I feel like I have a muscle shirt on. Pain creates strain.
Isn't there a statistic out there that shows most of some of the most successful companies started in a downturn or started in a period of turmoil, and the reason for that is because they looked at what was not in the marketplace to help with it, created it, and ended up exploding. I feel like that's kind of a thing that could happen in your business right now is, we always tell people, look at the opportunity. Obviously, look at the opportunity and look at the return on investment on the opportunity. But most of the time, they're just trying to focus in on all the doom and gloom and how are they going to make it by instead of, all right, well, how can I take advantage of this? And I think when you saw a lot of times people say, oh, man, well, prior to COVID, I was, kicking butt and taking names. Well, you probably didn't take full advantage of the opportunity that was in front of you there. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm good. Everything's going well. And then now those same people, like you said, are calling in like, I need your help. Like, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you 3 years ago when things were great and I could have positioned my business to be able to, work during this time period. And it's almost, we're always willing to help people, but it's like, God, if I could just go back in time and use this screenshot and show you.
Well, it's funny. It's okay. So I love that you said that. Okay, first of all, fact versus feeling. If you look at your financials and you're doing well, your business is cash flowing, you're profitable, let it go. Quit staying up at night. Your business is, well, but if we had more hygienists, your business is cash flowing, it's profitable, and it's growing. Calm down. Like trust, lean into your numbers right this minute. Like lean into your numbers because I think right now people are focusing on the stress versus the positives. But I also think going back to what you said in 2019 and 2020, I kept saying, winter's coming, winter's coming, winter's coming. Put money aside, have access to capital. I said it over and 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 over. And I kept saying, look, now's a kick-ass opportunity to put aside capital because the market is booming. Your investments are booming. Everything's booming. So put aside as much money as you possibly can right now, because there's going to be opportunity. Now, I could not predict COVID. If I did, I probably shouldn't be on here. I should be on like the some kind of a fortune-telling website or something. But I don't have that skill set, but I understand business. And I said it. I said, this is going in the high times, store money. Don't buy high, store money, put it aside, be smart, because the sales are coming. Well, boom, COVID happens. What does that make? Create tons of opportunity in the marketplace and need for access to capital. Then we get out of that. We go, okay, well, whew, we're kind of out of this COVID thing. Oh my gosh, inflation's soaring, gas prices are going through the roof. What do we do? Interest rates are going up. We can't find people. Well, if you had $300,000 that you had set aside, or $400,000 set aside, or you didn't blow your PPP money, then all of a sudden you could take that money and turn around and invest it into getting talent and paying bonuses, sign-on bonuses, and other things that you didn't do because you didn't look at the marketplace. Well, I'm not telling you that to tell you to go back in time. I'm telling you that to look at today. It's the same exact thing. Look at the opportunity today. Focus on today. Don't focus on don't sit around with your friends who talk about the inflation and gas prices. Now, look, Biden's changed his tune. Did you see this morning? This is a new thing. Like, his advisors are freaking out. I think he got like a new set of advisors. Clinton came in and gave him like some new advice. So they're changing tactics now. And this is not about being a Republican or a Democrat, by the way. I don't really care about that. It's not about that. It's about understanding that you're being manipulated by the market and by conversations. So first it was Biden's price hike, right? Not Biden, Putin's price hike. That's what he was going on. It was like, it's Putin's fault. It's Putin. Just so you guys know that Russia provided like 3% of our total oil production. So just so you know, that's not actually true. But they were trying to spin it and saying it was Putin's fault, Putin's fault, Putin's fault. It has nothing to do with the fact that we shut down the Keystone Pipeline, we shut down all of our natural gas, we shut down. But anyhow, so then today he's changed it. Biden appears to praise ballooning gas prices as an incredible transition Americans must go through to move ourselves to a green economy. So now he gave up blaming Putin. So now it's not Putin's fault. It's a great thing that you're paying more because it's a transition to green energy. That really feeds my family. Thanks, Biden. So here's the thing, like, that's all spin. It's all manipulated to get you scared to death. It's all literally just, it's all spin. Okay.
Yeah.
This is all the spin machine. And by the way, if I go to CNN.com, I'll find the other side of that same story because they're trying to manipulate the way you think. CNN let's see, they'll probably put it somewhere down below, like hide it somewhere like really down low. But look, they don't even talk about it. It looks like on CNN. The point is, look, don't get so frustrated by what's happening in the marketplace. Don't look at everybody else. Greatest entrepreneurs of all time looked at economies and they looked at inflation and they looked at changes and they said, how can I take advantage of this? People need a better question. They don't need a better solution. They need a better question. What's the question you ask yourself, right? Not, can I find a hygienist, right? It might be, what are the ways that I can attract and keep hygienists in this marketplace? What would I have to do that? Quit calling, first of all, your friend who can't find hygienists and ask him how to find hygienists because he doesn't know anyhow. And certainly don't ask him when he's paying hygienists because that's probably why they all left anyhow. Complaining about it, that's probably not a key strategy. That probably is not the best. And you go, well, that means I'd have to be innovative. Well, I mean, being innovative is kind of what entrepreneurship's about, is being innovative and trying to find a problem and create a solution. So look, this is a crazy marketplace. I mean, we have a recruiter right now. I'm paying to go find some people in our tax and accounting division. And literally, it's been 3 weeks, and I paid a retainer, and I haven't even heard. I haven't even gotten like hey, we're still looking or anything. I don't even know what's going on. So look, I mean, and by the way, you think that hygiene mark is hard. Wait till you get the tax CPA world. Look, that's 10 times harder right now. So,
and I think you have to look at that as like, so all my tactics, if I've had a problem for the last, we're in May now, about to be in June. For the last 6 months, I've been looking for a hygienist. Well, whatever you're doing, if you can't find that person, you're probably doing it wrong. So it's probably time to adapt the strategy. It's time to look at other ways to do it. Clearly, something's not working with the pitch that you're giving the hygienists that are potentially wanting to come onto your organization. Or so look at your systems and say, all right, what am I doing that is not different from the marketplace? They're seeing, because guess what? They're probably interviewing with hundreds of other dental practices at this point, and they're just, it doesn't oftentimes always come down to how much you're going to pay them. Well, you need to look at that too and say, all right, am I offering enough? Is the benefit package there? Is my office and my team, inviting and warm? Is there a future growth strategy? Or like, how are you differentiating yourself from the other practices that are looking for the same hygienist as you?
And those of you who are watching, I moved my face a little bit. Those of you watching YouTube, I was realizing, what was the guy's name on, what was that show with Tim, the neighbor that you can always see his eyes? Yeah, Home Improvement.
Home
What was the
improvement.
neighbor? What was the neighbor that always looked over the fence? What was his name? Oh, come on. Someone on the
That's
podcast.
Come on, that's pre me.
Oh, come on. Come on. It starts with N, right? Nelson. It's not Nelson, but it's something like that. But anyhow, um, a free copy of Financial Evolution if you message in and tell me
Who the neighbor that peeks
who's
over
the
the
neighbor.
fence
That's
is in
right.
home
But anyhow, that's why I
improvement.
was like, I looked at the camera. I'm like, come on, Reese, you got to give me like a heads up. I'm just, you can just see my eyes right here. Um,
It's because
anyhow,
you were intently involved. You're like, yeah, I'm
so
ready.
involved in this thing. I look, guys. This podcast is to spark your brain. You should be listening to this once a week to really get your mental muscles moving. We start thinking about the future. I went on a podcast last week and I was asked to speak on someone else's podcast, and a lot of the same conversation came up because it is, how do we in this marketplace take care of people? How do we see the changes in the environment? And guys, if it's not this change, it'll be another change. Because see, what ends up happening is like, let me give you an example. So people are there in a rural area. Tell me you can't find people because you're in a rural area. Nobody wants to move to a rural area. People in a city tell me, well, the problem is that in a city that there's so many doctors, you can't. There's so much competition for the same people. Look, there's always challenges in the marketplace. That's just the nature of it. If it was easy, then nobody would pay you to do it. This is the reason why you started a business, because you were willing to accept these challenges. People don't realize how many times you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, but that's kind of the nature of it. And then there's entrepreneurial roller coaster, which some days you feel like you're on top of the world, and some days you feel like you're going to crash. Even with spending time with Ryan Hungate, who's the CEO of Simplify, and talking about their model. They're in 6,000 offices. It's a large organization, and I think that, or how many, I know they're in thousands and thousands. But the whole point is, like, there's challenges them, challenges with all of us, whether you're in technology, there's challenges, whether you're in marketing, there's technologies, whether you're in medicine and dental, there's whatever you're doing, there's going to be challenges. And I think what we look at is to say, like, how do we, and look, if you're in the technology game, like, you have to continue. I mean, you want to talk about moving pace. Technology's fast moving, right? So let's just say you're at least medical and dental, exactly where you're at. It doesn't move that often, right? It doesn't change that, it
Yeah.
doesn't change, but technology changes quick. Somebody else can copy your technology. You got to move and adapt and adapt and adapt. And then dental side, we're not used to having to adapt that quickly, change that quickly, move things that quickly. So what I would tell you is that in your business model, you have to look at everything as opportunity. Shut it down. Don't get the emotional side. Don't get overwhelmed by everybody else's talking. Don't get everyone else overwhelmed by everyone's chatter. How can I compete in this marketplace? What can I do that's different? I got an organization right now spending so much in culture and investing in culture and the experience, and those things are huge. I think it's things that you can do for the office. Even things like we're about to have a food truck come because we hit, a goal. And so I think that there's some things that you can do as an organization to, sometimes it's just like a day, half a day off. And
Yeah.
like there's little things you can do that are actually pretty powerful. And I think you have to think about those. I think that today's world, today's marketplace, but that doesn't ever change. Like you get rewarded for innovation. You get rewarded for thinking different. You get rewarded for solving problems. That's what the marketplace is. Ultimately speaking, you get the more problems you solve, the more money you get paid. So if you think it's difficult, well, that's the whole thing. If it wasn't difficult, then everybody would do it. It's the difficult part that you're getting paid for. So understand that difficulty it goes with the territory. And so don't get overwhelmed by this difficulty. There'll just be another difficulty and then another one. It's like the people that go, well, once I have this much money in the bank, then all my problems will be gone. Or, once I do that, then all my problems will be gone. Well, okay. So it doesn't work like that. That's not the way life works. There's always another challenge. There's always another circumstance. So what we do is we focus on the opportunity. Take this podcast. Write down, what are my 3 opportunities this week that I could go after? Are you busy or are you productive? What are 3 things I could do right now that would attract more people to my team? Write them down. Write those 3 things down. What are those 3 things that I could be focused on? Write down, what do you think the challenges in the marketplace are? Currently, what are the challenges in the marketplace? Great. Then once you see that, say, how could I utilize my team or my systems to overcome those challenges? These are things that are really, really, really important. And so understand that those are important things that you can bring into your business and you can utilize. Focus on the opportunities, focus on the ways you can capture markets, focus on the things that differentiate your business, focus on those types of things. Don't look what everyone else is doing. Don't copy them. They're going down the same rabbit trail. In 2008, literally everybody, like we all know, buy low, but everybody was selling off stocks in 2008. My gosh, if you had just bought stocks in 2008 and just poured everything into buying stocks, you wouldn't be working right now, because we all know that. It's the same thing I want to tell you right now. If you pour into the opportunities today, somebody was telling me, on this podcast during COVID, we said to market during COVID, because I said, this is the time you double down. Well, the people that did ultimately had the rewards of that. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this last week. We were talking about,
I would argue those people that actually did that too aren't having problems with their team right now.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. The people that, and actually, when I, last week when I was at Amplify conference, we were actually talking about this idea of like the companies, whether you're independent dentist, DSO, whatever, the companies that double down in marketing are the ones that exploded. This is the same thing. If you double down in this time when it's hard to find people, when the market starts to switch, you'll get the vast majority of them. You'll get your picking. You'll be able to do selection. So take advantage of this opportunity. Take advantage of this time. Don't let inflation scare you. Just say, how do we utilize inflation to grow our business? What are some of the advantages of inflation for our business? How are we adapting to that? That's the things we have to focus on. Do not sit around with a bunch of doctors complaining that you can't find hygienists. That is what you don't do. When they start talking, get your butt up, walk out of the room and say, look, you got to go to the bathroom or something. Step out and don't step back in. That stuff, you got to push that stuff out. Nobody looks at great leaders for following what everybody else is doing. Great leaders do something different than everybody else is doing. They zig when everybody zags. So I would argue in this time, it's more important than ever to find out what those things are and then do them. I'm working with, top clients, people with a lot of offices and stuff. We've got very unique strategies we're creating, and I encourage you to do the same.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the concept that you did the large workshop on at one point was, guard your cup. Look for the opportunities, but ultimately control what is coming into your funnel, basically. What's coming in every single day matters. Doing those opportunity things writing those down will change your mindset, and you'll start looking at things differently. When you see a report that inflation's gone up another 1%, you'll start thinking, okay, well, how do I tackle that opportunity rather than that's a negative thing? We always say, always control what you are allowing to come into your mental space, because ultimately speaking, the only way you're going to get from point A to point B is truly you. And if you block any way from you getting to your goal by just having a negative mindset of what's going to happen in the marketplace, you're never going to get there.
Never going to get there. So, yeah. I think that's a message for them. We can talk about, listen, you guys write in, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. We don't get heavy, we got to be careful what we can talk about and not talk about on this podcast, because, I don't know your specific situation, and everyone's situation is a little bit different. But I do know this is that you control your mindset, and the mindset makes a huge difference to your ability to impact your business. And so you got to control what's coming in. You got to control what's happening in your space. Control what you're watching, what you're listening to. I don't ever listen to terrestrial TV, but the amount of ads right now for political, it's insane. Like
I got like 8 text messages over the past 2 days.
I watched the basketball. I watched the basketball, and when I was watching basketball, like ad after ad after ad. Stacey Abrams is horrible. Purdue's horrible. This person's horrible. It's all this like other stuff. And it's like I just want to watch the game. So look, push that stuff out. Ultimately speaking, it's not going to help you. Don't hang out with people who are having those conversations. Those are limited scarcity mindsets. Go after the abundance mindset. Go after people who are building and doing great things. And don't focus on the negatives of inflation. Focus on the positives of inflation. There are plenty of positives to think about. And matter of fact, if all the news stories were coming out and saying all the positives of inflation, believe it or not, you would think positive inflation was a great thing. We're literally being controlled every single day. You start to say, well, inflation, how much does it change your life? Probably the vast majority of people listening to that hasn't had zero zilch impact on their life, and yet. They're saying, oh, what am I going to do about inflation? Or are you still going to work? Are you still putting money aside? Or are you still, yeah. Okay, well, is it really affecting you? Maybe not. So don't get caught up in all that. Well, it's hard to find hygienists. Yes, but if you were a hygiene school right now, you're letting everybody in. You're trying to get as many people in as possible. You're pumping them out. Like, I mean, look, give it this has happened before. This is not the first time there's been a lack of hygienists in the marketplace. There'll be a lack of doctors at some point too. And this is all part of an economic cycle. It's predictable. This is what happens. Labor markets go up, labor markets go down. It's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market. This is all right now, right? It's a seller's market in the real estate, but pretty soon it's going to be a buyer's market. And so these are all the fluctuations. We don't get emotional about them. We make smart financial decisions in those marketplaces so that we can take advantage.
Control your mindset, ultimately speaking. And, thank you, as always, Mr. Moore, for tuning in or coming into the studio today. I feel like you've been on the road so much that we haven't been able to do these. So I
should do the road show, the podcast road show, right? So that's what
you would finally be able to get the Sprinter van you've been wanting. We'll do it from the Sprinter van. We'll make it happen. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like Eric said, if you ever want us to talk about a concept, just send an email in. Tag us. We post these on Facebook and LinkedIn and social media platforms. If you ever want us to talk about something in particular, just send a quick message in and we'll make sure it happens. But as always, like, subscribe. Mr. Moore, thanks for being in the studio today. We'll see you next time.
Mr. Maffey, thank you. All right, see you next time.